Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the pattern for the next couple of weeks. We do have this is the 3 to 4 week outlook, but the models only go out, the longest model that I have at least goes out 2 hours. The European goes out 2 weeks or 384 hours. The European will go out 240, and then we'll look at precipitation on the GFS, which was once again 384 hours. But this is the longest range we're going to get out, and then we'll check the models on both sides of the precipitation and the temperature. So stick to the end so you can see your precipitation and your temperature and see what your pattern could be like over the next couple to few weeks. This is not direct on, but this is a very good forecast from a lot of the models and, of course, the National Weather Service. So if you do enjoy this video, consider subscribing and liking. Stick till the end if you want to, and if you do enjoy the content, and you can think about subscribing or liking then if you already haven't. But let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so you can see right here, you can definitely see in the orange, that is where they're expecting above average. So you can see along these lines, we have the 50, the 55, and 60% chances from the west down through the very deep south up to through the east coast and then parts of the most of the northeast. We're expecting that. So there's a 50 to 60% chance it'll happen. My only thing is I would take this a little bit more south. That's all I have to say. But they did put equal chances right here. So that's why they put that there. So it could be cooler or warmer there. There's a 33 point something chance, 33.3 about of everything happening. So we'll have to see there. It could be normal, below average, or above normal. So that's what we're expecting in the orange, and for now, 50 to 60% chance. And you can see in Alaska we have a 70 to 80% chance of it being above average there also. So it's going to be pretty warm there, pretty above average. And you can see along parts of the upper plains from North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, regions of Kansas, northern Missouri, western Iowa, Wyoming, northeastern Colorado. That's where we're seeing that. You can see we have a 50 to 55% chance of it being below average. I do think we'll see that below average somewhere around there. I do think we could take it a little bit more east and a little bit more south, and it'd be something like this. But that's just my prediction. Let's go ahead and get on and look at the models. Alright, so this is right now. You can see right now we have a huge cool down across a lot of the East Coast. You can see we did have a cold front come through the other day. You could definitely see where it was around there. And you can see how it slid east and those cooler temperatures went behind it. So the cold front just moved out last night and it's off into the ocean today. And then this tropical disturbance somewhere along the East Coast is going to be dragged off with it, off into the Atlantic Ocean. But there is another system I will talk about in a little bit in the precipitation part of this video that is in the Gulf. We're going to have to watch it. I'll talk about that in a little bit though. But you can see right now we do have a cool down across the central United States and the east. We really needed this because it was record high temps for weeks. It was terrible, I'll tell you that. It was very, very hot. Reached about 100 degrees here. But you can see across some parts of the west we're getting a little bit of a warm up. But of course across a lot of the mountain ranges it's a little cooler. But you can see across the spaces where we don't have a lot of elevation, or just not the highest parts of elevation, it is a little cool down. Washington and Oregon, you're not as cool down. I mean, you're more cooled down than everyone else. But that's what we're seeing there for now. Alright, so right now you can see cool down in the central and eastern parts, and the western part is warming up. So we are having a ridge kind of set up in the west, not a huge one, but you will definitely notice it if you're in the west. It'll be way warmer there. Alright, so as we move on to this weekend, you see this cool down starting to move south and east, and it'll eventually move out, but we're going to have a lot of waves of cooler and warm air. It's really going to be a weird August. So you can see we do have this warm up across the upper plains once again, also into the southwest. We're seeing that parts of the mountainous regions of some of the states along the west, that's what we're expecting there. But once you get up into the extreme Pacific Northwest. You can see it's cooler there, and of course across the southeast it's also still cooler, but not too below average. Don't expect it to be, when I say below average, I mean maybe 1 or 2 degrees below average. So in the southeast, if your average temperature is 87, it could be 85. Still really hot, so in the summer it really doesn't matter with these. It still can be pretty hot, but it's just saying a little cooler than usual, just a little bit of different to what we usually don't see. Alright, so this is where we see it a little bit, it's pretty interesting right here. So you can see we have something coming from from Canada. I will go to the regions and see it a little bit more. If we go to the northern hemisphere, okay, I'm just going to do it like this. You can see how we do have a lot of this cooler air that right now is stored up in Canada. But as you see, it moved down. This is really interesting. It moves this warmer air that we're experiencing in the east, in parts of the east. It'll move that east, and you can see how it kind of swings in across parts of the upper plains. You can see that's what we were talking about with that cool down in yesterday's monthly forecast. We're going to have to see if it gets into Texas. Texas is still kind of a wild card. Some days it'll be cooler, some days it will not. We will have to see about Texas. But, of course, across the upper plains, we can finally cool down, really across a lot of the plains into the southeast. But you can see it keeps going east. This is not an incredible cool down, by no means. But this is a little weird. We usually don't see stuff like this come in. You can see how powerful it was before it came in. But this can set us up for what winter could look like. So in this winter, you can see I'm not saying it'll be like this winter. This is like 7 days out. But you can see it's warmer in that region, and it's cooler over here. This is what this winter could look like a lot. So maybe it's a little bit of a sneak peek of what we could see. So you can see that as that moves east, that cool down, it does cool down the east coast for a little bit. And then it stays there. You can see it really across the Ohio Valley and the northeast, it really cools us down. Across the southeast, you're looking pretty normal, maybe a little bit above average. But you can definitely see right here, it's cooler, it's warmer down here. And then in this part, it's, cooled down a little bit. So we do have the jet stream. Of course, it does slip down here, and that's what we're seeing because the cooler air is going to be there. That's just something really interesting that a lot of meteorologists have saw develop. I am not a meteorologist, but I love the weather and I love forecasting it. Okay, but that's what you can see there. Generally, warmer across the west, cooler across the east most of the time. It's looking pretty promising for now, especially as we get into the later hours. As we get into the next week or two. That's what it'll be looking like. Alright, so you can see we're going to go into the European model really quick, and you can see right now, of course, same as the GFS models, central and eastern United States cool down. There's a little bit of a warmer air coming from Canada that'll come down for this week, and then across the extreme Pacific Northwest, it's a little cooler. Everywhere else in the west is warmer. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on in time. This does not go as far out, but you can see these do agree pretty well where the warm-up will be across the upper parts of the plains into the southwest, also into parts of the northeast, and across the southeast we're still a little bit cooler. But, of course, that could change. So, as you can see, it does do that. You can see that's what it does. So, it's pretty interesting how it's a little cooler in the southeast, but it finally does warm up. But then you can see that cool down we were talking about with the GFS model. I will go back to the northern hemisphere and show you that. You can see how it did come from Canada, just like the other one. But you can see how it unleashes. The center is not right over parts of America, but of the United States, but you can see we still get that cool down to come up, and that will eventually slide east, just like all the others, like the GFS model was saying, and we'll see cooler in the east. The cooler air will develop, and across the west, it'll be a little bit warmer than average, especially with both of these models. That's what we've been seeing. Alright, so this, just for a disclaimer, this was the GEFS model, if I can say it. It's a lot of models of the GFS put together, so if any of you are confused what I mean, Sometimes if I say ensemble, I don't think I said it, but it's an ensemble model. The GEFS was GEFS, the first one I showed you. It's pretty much this model, the GFS model, but there's a lot of them put together into one forecast. So you can see it wasn't as aggressive as this will be. Okay, so that's for the temperature. We're going to take a quick look at the precipitation. You can see not as impressive. It's a little bit more below average this August, but we're not really sure, especially along this area. They really did a good job right here because they don't want to freak people out. So this is a lot like I did on my monthly forecast. I didn't really want to freak everyone out, but I know we are going to get a lot of Gulf moisture in those areas. I kept the East Coast pretty safe, and I did keep the Gulf Coast pretty safe by just saying above average because I feel like that will happen. But they did equal chances because they're pretty much, the reason they did this, I will explain to y'all, because if we get any rogue tropical systems like this one that we might see in the Gulf, it won't do much, but it will bring some rain. So it's stuff like that they don't want to say above average or below average just for that reason. But you can see below average in Texas and across parts of the plains, Central Plains, up to parts of the Pacific Northwest, just very eastern parts of that. Also in two parts of the Tennessee Valley, we are seeing that this is a very hard region to kind of specify. It's across a lot of regions. 50 to 55% chance of above average, so 50-50 chance, but we're a little bit on the higher end of that. It's a pretty good chance that we'll see that. And if they're saying that 3 to 4 weeks out, I think they are pretty sure about it, certain. But you can see across the extreme northeast, across parts of New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts, also into Maine, below average. Also, as we move into Oregon, parts of northwestern Nevada, also in very northeastern parts of California, it's saying below average. We will have to see what goes on there. I will show y'all in a minute what I mean. But equal chances across the rest of the U.S. It could be below average, average, or above average. So we will have to see across those regions. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the precipitation, and we're going to see what this has in store. Alright, so right now you can see that cold front did move off, as I said, off of the east coast, and we have a major cool down and not much moisture across a lot of the central and eastern United States. But you can see across the western United States we are a little active with the storms, parts of those regions, but you can see that really does fade away. And then by this weekend we already start to see some storms across parts of the east, mainly because of this area to watch I was talking about. It doesn't have a very good chance of developing into anything tropical, but it's around here, and you will see how it moves across Florida, and so it'll soak Florida, especially northern Florida, and then it'll move up parts of the southeast coast. We'll have to see how close it stays, and then it'll move off because, yeah, high pressure will definitely be pulling it away. Alright, so that's what we're seeing there. Not too important. Florida expects some, northern Florida expects some soakers. I know it's been flooding there lately, so watch out there. Alright, but you can see this weekend, not really too active across a lot of the east coast, except for Florida and parts of the southeast coast. But you can see across parts of the upper plains, really just the plains, you can see where we do have a lot of moisture in place. That'll move across the northern United States, and then we see these scattered storms by next week across pretty much all the eastern part of the United States, just because we're starting to get warmed up during the day, that daytime heating, and really across the east we are pretty rainy. Not washouts, but we will have to see, because it's looking more like scattered storms will develop in those regions, but we definitely will have to see right there. Alright. So, as I was saying earlier, in Oregon they're saying it'll be below average. So, yesterday I was looking at the CFS model and it was saying above average, and yesterday the models were favoring that. But today we are putting it in below average, so I will... Oh, wait a second. I did change my mind on the precipitation. Alright, never mind. I already fixed it. Alright, but yesterday's video I did have it in below average. Sorry about that. That's why I did say I was uncertain about Oregon. But now, if I were to change it, I would put, I'm very sure now that I'm going to put you in the below average Oregon. I'll just put you in the below average. So, yeah. That's what we're seeing there. Alright, so you can see not too much of a washout in a lot of areas, just a lot of scattered storms across America as it warms up a little bit. It won't, pretty much to sum up this video, we're going to see a cool down across a lot of the east, warm up across the west, but across the east it's not going to be extreme cool down like freezing temperatures, just maybe a little less than we usually see, a little bit less, just a little unusual, but it won't feel too different. So don't expect it to be like, it feels like winter. It's still going to feel like summer, but just not as terrible as it has been. But alright guys, I hope y'all did enjoy this video. Once again, consider subscribing and liking down below if you did enjoy it. I know this was a very long video. I just love talking about this. I just love talking about this. This is really fun, to me at least. I do hope y'all also enjoyed this and had fun watching and learned something. And I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.